What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. If you've been following along with us for a little while, you know that we just returned from 2 weeks at Loretta Lynns Ranch for the Loretta Lynns Amateur National, and we had a bunch of you comment asking for a cost breakdown of what we spent this year to do the full Loretta Lynns experience. The numbers are officially in. We're gonna go ahead and share with you exactly how much we spent to go to Loretta Lynns this year. Okay, so first things first, if you are just finding our channel, we are Pat and Gina, a motocross race team living full-time in our camper, traveling the country, racing motocross. This year was our second time going to Loretta Lynns, and we actually did a cost breakdown from last year. I'll link it up here somewhere so you can find that one. That was our first year ever attending Loretta Lynns, and so this is our second time around, and a few things have changed. So I know there's a ton of different scenarios. We are a couple with one rider and racer. We have a toy hauler and a truck and one bike that we raced for the week. Attending Loretta Lynns is not something you can just show up and do. It's actually a 3-step process. So in order to make it to the ranch, you have to attend at least one area qualifier race and qualify for that. Then you have to attend one regional qualifier race, which is essentially all of the qualifiers from the areas coming together in that region. And then once you qualify at the regional, or in our case as an alternate, you then can go to Loretta Lynns. This year and last year, Pat and I decided to attend 2 area qualifiers and 2 regions to give ourselves the best shot at making it straight in. We also decided to do 2 classes this year instead of 1 class. So that greatly impacted our costs for this year, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to share the total for one area qualifier and then just double it, and same thing with the regional. So that way you can see like what would the minimum have been if we just did what is required to get there, which would be one of each of those versus doing the 2 regions. All right, so let's get into it. For the area qualifier, I'm just going to list out the expenses and then I'll talk about them a little bit after, just some common questions that we get a lot from people who are following along on our journey. So for the area qualifier, there was an MX Sports fee of $50. The gate fees, which covered camping for the weekend, was $90 for the 2 of us. The class fees plus practice, so that's 2 classes racing plus the Friday practice, was $130. We spent around $200 in gas to get to and from the race. And then this is a new expense for us this year, which is generator gas. So we're now operating out of a toy hauler versus last year where we were operating out of our van. So this year we have a much nicer setup for the races, but that does come with the expense of keeping it running. So we spent around $75 on gas just to keep the lights on, the electric going, and, air conditioning, things like that. We also spent around $100 for the weekend for food, so our grocery bill. And so those are the major expenses for the area qualifier. Now, if you're wondering, what is the difference between the class fee and the MX Sports fee? Think of MX Sports as essentially the race promoter. So they are essentially like the top umbrella on this entire experience. They facilitate the process. But then within that umbrella, you have all these different tracks that are hosting these area qualifier and regional qualifiers. MX Sports fees go to keeping that overarching process going. And then the tracks themselves collect a fee for the race itself, just like any other race you would go to or attend in a local district. We also had a one-time purchase that is part of the Loretta Lynns experience. You can't really get around it, and that is your MyLapse transponder. So you have 2 options. You can either rent the transponder every race, or you can purchase a MyLapse transponder and pay a yearly subscription. So last year, because Pat and I felt that we would probably do this multiple years in a row, we decided to invest in getting the MyLapse transponder, and we have used it at countless races so far. So this year, the only thing we had to purchase was the new yearly subscription renewal. That cost was $76 $699, and we paid for that right before the area qualifier. So I'm adding that to the total for the area qualifier race. Okay, so drum roll. The grand total for the area qualifier for, again, this is like a 3-day race weekend, was a total of $645. Now, again, we decided to do 2. So if you were going to double that, we spent about $1,200 total on the 2 area qualifiers. And I know what you're thinking, which is like, what about the bike? What about parts, tires, all of that stuff? This is just what we spent this year, but we already have a bike that was maintained, that had decent tires on it. And so for the area qualifiers, we actually didn't purchase anything additional for the bike. Moving on to regional qualifiers. Again, I'm just going to list them out here. So the MX Sports fee was $130, and that was for the 2 classes. Our gate fee for the weekend was $100, so $50 each. Then the class entry fee and practice was $133. Travel for gas was $350. Generator gas, $100. And groceries, $150. In addition to these fees, we also purchased a set of tires for the regionals. That was $182. Thank you, Dunlop, for the sponsorship. That helped us get a significant discount on tires, so we appreciate that very much. And we also splurged and got some VP race fuel for regionals. That was $112.35, taking our grand total for the regional qualifier to $1,254.44. Now, again, we did 2 regions, so doubling that, we spent around $2,500 to attend the regional qualifiers this year. We did not ultimately make it straight into Loretta's this year, but we submitted our money anyway. So I want to talk a little bit about how this works, because it does sort of fall under the realm of what are the costs to do this. So let's say that you want to attend Loretta Lynns, but you are not straight in yet, and you want to put in for the chance to get in as an alternate. What you do is you actually submit the money for the facility permit and the class fees first, and then you will receive that money back if you ultimately do not get selected. So that is what we did. So we made it to the ranch, and so now it's time to talk about what we spent to be at Loretta Lynn's for 2 weeks. The facility permit covered our truck and camper to be on site for the full week of Loretta's, which starts the Saturday before and goes all the way to the last day of racing, which is the following Saturday. That was $800. Now, Pat and I decided to go a week early to make sure we had a good camping spot, and they charge per day for that. So we spent a total of $508 on extra camping. Class fees are $250 a piece. Again, we did both classes, so we paid $500 for that. Wi-Fi at the ranch for us was a requirement because we're creating content and posting all week long. So we paid for 2 devices, which was $245. Travel gas was $650. Generator gas, we spent around $350, and we had a bunch of help with that. So Mr. McNeil was with us, and he helped us fill up our generators so many times. So we want to say thank you so much to Papa Mac for helping us keep that AC pumping for 2 weeks, because that generator blows through gas when you've got everything on full speed in 95-degree heat for 2 weeks. We also went in on a golf cart this year, which we did not do last year. Our friends Jimmy and Ashley were getting a golf cart and wanted to split it, which you can totally do to save money. So we spent $409 on the golf cart. We had to get plastics for the bike. So for those of you who don't know, your Loretta Lynn's number is different from your regular race number. So you have to get graphics and plastics. Sometimes you get the same number, sometimes you don't. In our case, we did not have the same number for both classes. So we ordered 2 sets of plastics, which was $130. Our graphics, we had an amazing friend who sponsored us from DCIII Graphics. So I know we talked about them in our Loretta's video, but thank you to DCIII Graphics for sponsoring our Loretta's graphics this year. They gave us 2 sets of graphics, and that was amazing. So we didn't have to pay for that. While we were there, we bought some souvenir t-shirts, 1 each, which cost $80. We also bought some hydration powder, which was $40, and we spent around $100 on miscellaneous snacks, vendor stuff, so like ice cream, just miscellaneous spending. The other piece that would have come into play for sure because of how long we were there was the septic service. So they actually have a service on site at Loretta's that is going around filling up water tanks for you and emptying out your gray water and your septic tank. Thankfully, again, to Mr. McNeil, he brought everything we needed to manually empty our septic and pump our water, so we did not have to pay for that expense. That would have been another service that we would have taken advantage of because of the length of time that we were operating and living out of the camper this year. So that is everything. That is the total for the 2 weeks at Loretta Lynn's. Let's go ahead and add that up. So the grand total for this year for Loretta's was $3,812. And so what was the total? What did we spend on the full experience? First, I'm going to give you the grand total of 1 area qualifier, 1 regional qualifier, and what we spent at Loretta's. That grand total is $5,711.44. But that's not actually what we did. Our personal grand total this year to attend and go through the full Loretta Lynn's experience was a grand total of $7,610.88. So there you have it, guys. That's what we spent at Loretta's this year. If you have any questions about the Loretta Lynn's experience itself, our specific Loretta Lynn's strategy, how we decided which races to attend and how we would get there, leave them in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.